I think it's insane that Maddie's even asking me if I'm bisexual, so I don't think I should have to answer a question like that. Maybe you could not talk to them as much.
You're asking me not to call my family?
If Mina doesn't sign the prenup, I mean, hell's gonna break loose and Jordan's not gonna be happy, and I don't know where that'll...
Like, he's the person who she kissed first when we met at the Day of the Dead. The person she has sex with for the first time, alone, one-on-one. Ridiculous, like, you can't turn her to a housewife. That's what's going on.
These couples haven't even been in America for a week and they're already crumbling under pressure. Which has me wondering, how did they pass these interviews? Because aren't you supposed to know your partner like the palm of your hand? Yet it seems that they're all completely on different pages. We have a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé, and you just gotta laugh because... you know, no one's relationship is perfect, but in a perfect world, I would think that if you're going to get on television with your partner, I would assume that you think that your relationship is solid. Even though no relationship is perfect, I feel like these people just get further and further away from even like a stable relationship. We're gonna jump straight into it, but as always, before we do, make sure to like and comment. And if you're new here and you want to kiki with someone over 90 Day Fiancé, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of my updates. But y'all, let's start with Maddie and Stevie because I really wanted to like these people. I feel like I say this every time I talk about them. So when we see them, these two are going to the gym, okay? Operation, let's get Maddie acclimated. However, Stevie is acting away because she cannot hide that she feels uncomfortable with the fact that she can't really figure him out. Is he a flight risk? Does he want to go back? But is he here for the green card? He said something about wanting to stay even if they don't work out. In her brain, she's like, why is he even considering a future without me? So she's spiraling. I don't know what really goes on in his brain. But one thing Maddie's gonna do is compare the differences between America and Iran. And like, I think this is a normal thing. I just think it's hilarious when he does it. But he's at the gym and he's like, ooh, it's co-ed. That doesn't happen in my home country. He's like, back home, they make laws. Anything that can get a man aroused is a no-no. So seeing women in like sports bras and short shorts at the gym is a lot for him. You know, you could see that he's looking, but he's also uncomfortable by it. So he's trying to stick by Stevie. Stevie at first is like determined to have some distance. She's like, no. You figure it out over here. I'll do some cardio. But the minute a girl pulls up next to him, she immediately resurfaces. So when Stevie pulls up and he sees this girl, you know, talk to him about the machines, he's like, how would you feel if I personal trained some of these fit girls? And she's like, it depends. How professional are you going to be? And she makes him practice how he would, you know, respond if someone comes on to him. She makes the argument that like he's not okay with her painting men. And I get what she's saying, like, you know, the double standard of things. But I think it's a little different because Stevie girl, you do nude paintings. Nude. That's not exactly what's happening at the gym. And I don't know if this was heavy on his mind, and maybe it was, but I don't know if it's producer driven. But he's like, oh, since you brought up paintings, I noticed in your house you have a lot of boobs. What's that about? Are you bisexual? Are you into women? And she gets defensive and immediately is like, that's a weird question. Why would you ask me that? Oh my God, you and my dad are so weird. She doesn't say no. Did you guys notice that? What she says is, I'm attracted to you. And like, sure, you're attracted to him, but that wasn't the question. The question was, are you also attracted to women? And there isn't a problem with that. However, maybe she's withholding it. Maybe she could be in the closet. Or she is out with her friends, but she knows that he's against that. And she doesn't want to sabotage their relationship. But in her not answering, I think that that's a form of sabotage because he's not satisfied with her response. And when the producer calls her out about it, like, don't you think that it would make him feel better if you affirm whatever it is? She's like, why would I have to make him feel better? No, I don't have to answer that. Stevie girl is coming off a little selfish, okay? This is the girl that's afraid of driving in bridges. She's the girl that has night terrors. She's the girl that hid him from her family. There's a lot of things that he's gonna have to hold her hand in, and you can't take 2 seconds to ease his mind or his doubts about your sexuality. Interesting. Also because Miss Thing needs constant affirmation. So it's just interesting starting to see the imbalance of she's taking a lot and not necessarily giving in the same way. I'm starting to see that in terms of emotional support, Stevie's like, you're here to provide it to me. Like, I don't really need to give that to you. And that's going to be a problem. I don't just say that out of nowhere. I say that because in the next scene, she, has this date night for them in her apartment. It is cute, She wants to have like a little paint and sip situation. She at first is like, yeah, we can paint our body parts. I want you to paint my butt. And he's like, I've had enough culture shock. That's pushing it for me. He pulls out some wine. He's like, oh my God, we would be in prison in Iran if they caught us with this. Again, no shade to him. I just think it's hilarious that every scene, there's at least like 2 or 3 times that he does this. Anyway, after he rejects her whole like butt thing, she ends up painting his arm. You know when you can tell that something is heavily on someone's mind and there is no smooth transition? They just like bring it up. He's like, yeah, so, remember when I was telling you about my permanent resident status? Yeah, about that, so the price could go up any minute. So I think that, for us to save money, we should get married actually within like a few weeks and not the 90 days, just to get the ball rolling on things. And here's the thing. All relationships are transactional. If you love someone and you also want a green card, there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. However, I think that it is fishy for you to be like contemplating wanting to leave and then the next minute being like, actually, I could stay here without you. So let's rush this along so I can get my green card. You know what I mean? Like there's something about it. Stevie's looking at him like, okay, that's a lot to process, especially because she feels like he's a flight risk. And she made it clear. She's like, I don't want to go through the trouble of the paperwork, the money, the emotional labor of, getting us to the altar and then you freaking leave. Like, I need to know that you're sure. And I'm with her. But then she loses me because she's like, yeah, and you're like so sad. Like you're showing me a different side of you. And like you're always sad. Mind you, this guy has been here for what, like a week? She says, I'm laughing because I'm like, you are actually out of your mind. You send me off, in the morning to go to work. And when I come back, like you're just so down. And it's because you talk to your family. And he's like, yeah, like my family is sad. When I call them, my mom is weeping. And she's like, yeah, and that's a bummer, So maybe you should do less of that. And he's like, you want me to speak less to my family? And she's like, not necessarily, but like less, so that you don't feel like you still live there, so that you can be here. Imagine that you may never see your family again, that all you have is this phone. The fact that she would even fix her mouth to say something like that, I just couldn't believe it, right? Because how self-centered could you be? I'm not saying that this guy doesn't have to adapt. I'm not saying that like they have to hit the ground running in their future, in their life. But like, if this is the man that you love, these should also be people that you love. And this transition is so much bigger than just you two. It affects your families. And his family is also having to reconcile with those feelings and just the reality that they may never see their son again. So for me, I was just like, that is crazy. You are crazy. And I recall, I think she's been married before. I want to know why that marriage ended. Because she just seems to be like me. It is quite irritating to watch. I don't know what his deal is. I don't know if I like him either. But I'm a little disappointed because I really wanted to like these two. But I'm like, something's up. on both sides. I would love to know your thoughts on these people. But moral of the story, I don't think that they have any business rushing this marriage. Anyway, let's move on to Mark and Mina. Mark and Mina are at the family barbecue, as you guys recall, and Jordan rudely asked Mark about the prenup that Mina had no idea about. So Mina's crying. Mark is there like an idiot with the family, and he's like, you know what? She feels like we're ganging up on her, and that's not right, you guys. Maybe he should have said that when his fiance was there, but instead, she's grouping him with everyone else. What we need him to do is to grab his daughter and have a little private conversation where he checks her. That is unacceptable. You know what you did. But he eventually makes his way to Mina and again, this man is useless. He's not even being comforting. He's like, are you okay? She's like, no. As she's crying off her foundation. When they pan back to the porch, I think this is Mark's mom. She's like, oh my God. And Jordan is like, I know she's upset, but I'm upset too. And Mark's mom is like, I need to go check on her. So Mark's mom goes, and Mark's mom seems to be the only person here that likes Mina. And she's like, I'm so sorry that you feel ganged up on. I think there's just a lot of feelings. Mark is like, oh, my mom is getting to Mina. Perfect time to grab Jordan. Mark's mom is like, do you want to talk to Jordan? And Mina's like, sure, it is important that we do this. Mark's mom is like, there's a lot of feelings, a lot of things were said. And Jordan isn't like, yeah, I said some things too. No. Jordan's like, yeah, you called me a snake. Do you really think that I'm a snake? I hope that you don't, because I don't really know what you mean by that. And I'm like, girl, you know exactly what she meant by that. You were acting like a snake. You were talking crap about her to all of the family. You brought up her personal business in front of the family. You were moving like a snake. And you could see that Mina's like, biting her tongue. Like, oh, it was, a translation. I was like, girl, that was not a translation and shit. You called her a snake. And Jordan's like, and I think that you owe me an apology. And I'm like, you little shit. You owe her an apology as well. I think everybody needs to be apologizing here. Again, this was also a snake move. In asking this in front of Mark's mother is another way to corner Mina. Because if Mina doesn't apologize, she's gonna look like the stubborn, witchy stepmom. So Mina does apologize in this moment, but it looks like it's going to deaf ears because Jordan is looking away and being like, yeah, sure, let's, bygones be bygones. I just really care about my dad. And their issues are far from over. I'm going to tell you that right now. I didn't like that, not one bit. Not because I don't think Mina should be above an apology. I just feel like you could see that in this family nucleus, Jordan is being enabled. And she cannot keep getting away with this disrespectful ass behavior. But the Nana's like, so Jordan is invited back to the wedding? And Mina's like, yes. You know who I'm most pissed at in this entire thing? Mark. Mark's useless ass is like, oh, I'm so happy that there's peace and now we can continue, this family weekend. I'm so happy everyone's getting along. You did nothing. You did nothing and you learned nothing. And, Mina said yes to the prenup, because everyone's eyes were on her. But this is something that she didn't know about. And she's like, Mark and I have to talk about this because I have to protect myself. Clearly, everyone else is looking out for themselves. I don't want to be a loser in this. So they take the ferry back to, their little Airbnb situation. And when they get off, she's like, you and I still have to tend to business. I said yes to appease your family, but you and I still have to work this out. And this man, when I tell you, he's like, I thought we talked about that already. Really? And she's like, I'm not going to sign it just like that. And he's like, and in his confessional, he's like, I'm really going to get in trouble with Jordan if Mina doesn't sign this. I'm sorry, are you going to get married to Jordan? What is this? Mark needs to grow some cojones and stat. And it looks like Mina is not playing games because next week, she's going to see his ex-fiancé. The one that called off their engagement when I'm guessing Jordan pulled the same little shenanigans. Yeah, so next week is gonna be juicy. Let's move on to the throuple because they were comical to me this episode. So they're in Mexico and they're about to get like this private vineyard tour. Before they do though, they get picked up in this like classic car, and Amani, whatever her name is, she makes it a point to say, I organized this for us. And remember, she's the head honcho of her relationship. She's the breadwinner and she likes it like that. And it's clear that she's thinking that she's going to take on the same role with Annie. So they're in this car, and I'm guessing they told the driver, like, what's happening. But the driver didn't know that Annie is a native. So they're like, yeah, we love this little town, but we're going to go to Guadalajara to see Annie's family. And the driver's like, oh, you're from Guadalajara? So you're going to pull up with your boyfriend and his wife? Yeah, they're gonna be praying it away. Your family is gonna spaz. To which Ani's like, see, he gets it. And Amani's just in the back seat like, she is big mad. So you already know that she is going to push this issue. I really do think that it's Amani that's the mastermind behind all this, because she's the one that's always intentionally like grabbing both of them. Even in areas that they have no business walking as a trio, she like forcibly makes them hold hands. So performative. And I'm like, what is it that you feel like you need to prove? You could just be together and exist, but it's always like, give me your hand. But before they even get seated, they pan to her like interview, and she makes it clear that she sees what's going on. She notices that Annie kissed Matt first. She notices that they had schmecks first together, like as a duo, as opposed to her and Annie having that moment. She notices that like her and Matt always have like these like little insiders and are just always like melted into each other. She's peeped all of that. So it's obvious that she's really jealous about that. And I wonder if she would feel as jealous if Annie was doing it equally to her. But I also feel like you're in a throuple, it's never gonna be equal. You know what I mean? And I think that also, even though she's gorgeous, her personality is a bit of a buzzkill. It's so like in your face, it's so aggressive. After a while, it's a bit exhausting. There's a lot to live up to. And you could tell, like, the minute she hears something that she doesn't want to hear, she explodes. That's a lot to be around. We see that side of her immediately when they're seated. So Annie is like munching on all the cheese and crackers, but she peeps that Amani's like keeping it, short and quiet. And she's like, what's going on? I could tell that you're thinking about something. And Amani quickly is like, well, since you asked, if it's polyamory that you're worried about, why you didn't tell them that you're with me? Why did you tell them that you're with him and that I'm the friend? And I get what she's saying, but I think the point that they're missing altogether is that Annie's family is religious and they may not be LGBTQ friendly, or they're weird about it. And Annie doesn't want her family to disown her, especially for something that maybe she doesn't have a lot of faith in it. After all, you guys are a married couple, So Annie starts like, crying a little bit. She's like, it's complicated. And Matt is like, so are we going to tell your family before we get there? And she's like, before? No. And immediately Amani's like, can't do this. Like already, the theatrics, okay? And Annie's like, you guys don't get it. Like, it's not as easy. People aren't as open as you think they are. I wish that Annie would like get into it more in depth. But then again, I also feel like her boundaries should be respected. If she says no, she knows her family more than you guys do. So chill. But there's no chill here. The chill is lost, okay? Because then Amani's like, do people even know that you're in a relationship? Like, do they know about us? And Annie's like, no, I didn't tell anybody I'm in a relationship. All hell breaks loose, okay? Amani gets up and she's like, no, don't touch me. I don't know why I'm doing this. This is ridiculous. I need to go back to my kids. You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. Whether this relationship is for show or it's the real deal, How people speak about you and to you when they are angry speaks volumes. Because you can't call me a hoe and then when you're over it, come and kiss up on me like nothing happened. You can't do that. And you could tell that Amani, whatever her name is, she's used to saying whatever the hell she wants, and Matt just like takes it. So at one point she's like crying outside, but you can hear it clearly from their table. So one by one they go up to her and they like hug her and they're like, babe, we love you, like it's gonna be okay. And Amini's like, I just want you to claim me. I want people to know that you're taken. It's a little much. I feel like they're going 0 to 100. And like, sure, they're going to make some sacrifices to bring Ani in. But it doesn't sound to me like Ani has fully agreed to come to America. Because it entails a lot. It entails uprooting her daughter. It entails letting go of her older children. It entails possibly losing out on her family. So she needs to know that she's in good standing with this couple. And it doesn't seem like they're stable at all, you know? So they're up and leaving this place because Amini is just unraveling, okay? And before they go, she's like, I just love you. And I just, I don't want to quit on you, but like, I need you to do this and that. And Ani starts walking away because she's like, you're not about to yell at me. Like, I have enough problems. I don't have to deal with this. And Amini is like, you don't get to just walk away from me like that. I'm not done speaking to you. And Ani turns to her and she's like, you don't own me. I don't work for you. And this was such a humbling moment because, again, Amini is used to being top dog. And Ani's like, you don't get to run my life like that. You don't get to decide what works for me, what's good for me. I need to protect me. And also, Ani is not some young buck. Ani has lived life. Like, you don't get to come into someone's life and be destructive because you want it to be tailored to your life. Like, it's a little more complicated than that. Again, I don't know if I buy that this is the real deal. I watch Sister Wives, so I know that relationships like this can exist, but I've also seen how badly they go. They don't often work. And I also feel like these people are here for camera time. So there's a lot that I'm like, I don't know if I believe you, But there's a moment. I'm guessing Ani is trying to calm Amini down. And she's like, why are you acting like this? Like, I want you. Like, I'm in this for you. I don't care about him. And you could tell, if this wasn't on camera, this is what Amini wants to hear. Because I think that Amini wants Ani for herself. And she feels a way about being left out. But on camera, she has to be like, well, that's not good either. Because remember, she's been preaching that it needs to be equal for all of them. I don't believe Ani at all, though. I think that she's just saying this to like wrap this up. And maybe Amini gives her money. I don't know. But the chemistry that she has with Matt, everybody's lying. But let's move on to Shawn and Alliya. So they did in fact bang, okay? I think that him giving her the Shawn and Alliya book was everything she needed. We see them the next morning. They get woken up by their dog. You can see that she feels a way about the dog being on the bed. She slept good, so she's like, whatever. They have a vibrating bed, which I'm sure is expensive and probably is amazing to go to sleep and do extracurriculars with. I was like, okay, I need to look into that bed. But anyway, I think the chunk of their segment is the Alliya is a germaphobe. We see it manifest at first with her being upset about the way that Shawn laid out her toothbrush. She felt that it was exposed, it wasn't covered, germs, etc., etc. And at first, the way that Shawn is talking about it, he seems annoyed. Like, she's very particular about things, which makes sense because she's a nurse, right? So they go to this pharmacy. She finds the toothbrush cover. She's finding dog toys. And then she sees an at-home HIV test. And she's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because after all, they are in an open relationship, open on Shawn's end. and she likes to be extra cautious. And when they get to a cafe, we learn she got tested like 7 times in 1 year. Not necessarily because of Shawn, but because she literally is paranoid. If she gets a cut, if she goes to get her nails done, any little thing, she's like, I have to get tested. I could see how someone may think that maybe that's alarming, but I feel like if that gives her a peace of mind and it's not hurting anyone to get tested, girl, do you. It was probably expensive though. But as they're talking about this, she's like, yeah, so remember when you said that we would be monogamous once I got to America? What about it? And Shawn says, yeah, I'm down to be monogamous as long as, we're connected, we have intimacy going. And I thought that that was a good answer ish, right? It definitely sounds conditional, but I think it's an upgrade from what they've had. Like, you're getting your answer, you have monogamy. But this is not music to Alliya's ears because she's like, but what if I change? I'm not sure that he's attracted to me as a woman. And if I fully do my thing, is he gonna be here for it? I think people forget Shawn is bisexual. However, he prefers men. He's been in love with women. He has been intimate with women. That's just not his choice anymore. But he loves Alliya, and so according to him, he's making it work. However, it sounds like a lot is in the air for them because if she goes ahead and has the gender reaffirming surgery, it may no longer be a thing that he can keep up with. And she's like, I hear you, but I don't want to be limited by that. And so it almost feels like a breakup combo, which leads me to think that these two have some sort of agreement because, she's like, I love you. We're going to be friends regardless, wherever life takes us. But basically, it's very much up in the air. She definitely is going to go through her changes as she should, and he should be with who he wants to be with. I have a problem when you start guilting each other. You know what I mean? But the way that they're talking about it, it seems like they are at peace with the possibility that they may not be together. I don't know. I feel like Shawn gives me the energy. It's not a good way to think about someone, but I can't help but feel like he views Alliya as a project. And as long as it's not harmful, I mean, they're grown-ups. But you guys know what I mean? I feel like he gets something from her companionship. And if in turn she gets a fab life in LA, I mean, it could be worse as long as no one's being deceived, But let's move on to Sarper and Shekinah real quick because I don't like the plastics, but I know y'all do. They recap the night's events. As you guys recall, Dan, who's obsessed with Shekinah, gave Sarper the business and Sarper had to eat it because Shekinah was like, don't embarrass me. But I was dying. The replay that they did of all the times Dan would be like, Sopa. The way that Sarper was like, I wanted to freaking spaz. Shekinah, though, was like, thank you so much for behaving. And Sarper's like, yeah, don't get used to it. If he does that again, I'm going to pull up as the old Sarper. And she's like, well, thank you so much for not doing that because now I feel like you can meet my family and my daughter. And I don't know if a lot of you watched when they were first introduced, but Sarper was a big a-hole. He still is. We still see like a glimpse of that. I just feel like over time he's become lovable. But when he was introduced, he was horrific. And the way that he treated Shekinah's sister was horrendous. And Shekinah and her sister were estranged for like the longest because of this. And she went back home and she was telling everybody about how terrible Sarper was. So basically Shekinah was out there defending Sarper and had no allies. Sarper is aware that his reputation precedes him and he knows that he's starting a -1. So they fly out to wherever she goes to boarding school. And Shekinah's determined to like get her daughter to meet Sarper. And even though she hasn't agreed to it yet, she's bringing him along. And everyone looks a little scared, and they should be scared because teenagers are terrifying. Even the nicest ones are brutal. So I was like, Sarper, you better be scared. But we see Shekinah meet up with her daughter to get like petties, and she is gorgeous. I imagine this is what Shekinah looked like before the plastic. And it sounds like she's been through it with her mom. It sounds like, Shekinah was a single mom and probably got her daughter involved in her old relationships a little too soon. And it's been hard, right? And so with Sarper, she's heard the worst, but she has seen that her mom is so happy with him. So she's like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about him, but I can see that you love him and you're happy, so I'm willing to give him a chance. Shekinah says that like she's not going to move on with Sarper if her daughter doesn't approve, but something tells me that they're going to be just fine. I feel like a lot of their drama is for camera. I feel like in their own twisted way, they get each other, you know? So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes next week. The last couple is Juan&Jessica, but really it's Jessica and her crazy lover bestie Megan. It's real quick. Jessica goes to meet up with Megan because Megan was heartbroken, y'all. She was acting like she was the one that was cheated on by both Juan and Jessica. When Megan arrived, she's like, yeah, you know, I'm hurt that my best friend has been lying to me for a year and that her fiance cheated on her and denied it when I asked. And again, I'm like, girl, he doesn't owe you anything. She's just a little too invested, like in a creepy way for me. My friends care about my heart. They care about my well-being. They're not about to cry over it though, especially when I'm happily still with that man, you know? And Jessica is almost like laughing at her friend. She's like trying to be empathetic, but also like, we kind of just figured it out on our own. And I know that you're sensitive, but like, we're fine. And, you know, I need you to be fine with him because I'm getting married soon. And Megan is like, well, I need to see if I can get over this. He needs to prove it to me. He doesn't have to prove anything to you. And I'm like, girl, Huang is going to look at you like you have two heads because he does not have anything to prove to you. If you're going to be upset with anyone, I feel like maybe have a conversation with your bestie. But in terms of what she does with her relationship, it really doesn't concern you. And you could just tell that this drama is far from over. And I just know that her and Huang are just going to clash. And Jessica's just going to be like, I think Jessica likes the chaos, not going to lie. The way that she was smirking when Megan was talking, a little sus for me. But that was it, you guys. That was the episode. I'm tired of yapping. I'm literally recording this after work. Please let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to hear them. And the next video I'll see you guys will be The Last Resort Tell All Part 2. So I can't wait for that. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.